It's time for Bull Sessions, brought to you by Willcross Seed, your weekly hour-long excursion into all things agricultural, from farming to livestock, soil to seed, equipment to rural life. Now here's your hosts, Randy Baker and agronomist Brad Law.
Okay, Brett, here we are. Week number 3. Miles hasn't fired us yet, so life is good.
Well, that is.
We love 680 KFEQ. Gary, Libby, everybody that puts this thing together. You, Brad, I appreciate you. I just kind of am in here to take up space and room and drink this good coffee Miles made. And
well, you know, I'm hitting hard stuff this morning with some
Pepsi.
cold hard Pepsi there.
Okay.
But
our show this week.
We got to focus.
Let's focus. Our show this week, first segment, we're going to talk about soil testing, and the second half, we'll talk about soil fertility. You know anything at all about that?
Well, you know, I like to talk about soils.
Soils confuse me.
Well, a lot of things confuse you.
Well, you got a point.
Okay.
But this really does, because a few years ago, see, I thought I was wise, like you, see, so I was going to go get the CCA, take that exam, you know, nothing to it. I can go down there and do it.
Well, that's what I did.
Yeah, I know that you did, and that just adds to my pain because I didn't even come close to passing that thing.
Well, you know, here's the reason. We want to soil test because we want a snapshot of what nutrients are down there in the soil. So why would we want to do this? Because if we farm, does a farmer get a W-2 paycheck every week or every month?
No, he don't.
Okay, we've got to get bushels.
Yes.
Okay, bushels. We need weight. We need bushels across the scale.
Of everything we're growing.
Of everything. Okay, well, we can't always play the board like the guys in Chicago can.
Right.
We just, some guys are good at that, and I'm not. So I try to grow more bushels, so we can take a snapshot from that soil and see what's going on down there and what could we do to, if something's lacking, maybe we can build that up. So then if we get the weather to cooperate, we got the juice to go. We think about like a pulling tractor. Okay. With that pulling tractor.
Soils to tractors. I'll tie you in. I
mean, do you like tractor pulls, Randy?
I do.
Do you like growing more bushels of corn?
I really like that better even.
Okay. So, if we want to make that pulling tractor go, you can have a big engine. You've got to, and that you may just have a big engine. Well, if you ain't got the drive line to handle it, you still ain't going to get that, 300 plus feet.
Sure.
So we've got to have balance in there, and we've got to have everything firing. Okay, now do you see if that kind of loops back around there? Okay.
I get it now.
You get it. Okay. So the first thing is we need to pull a soil test, and fall is a great time to soil test because then we can chew on that and say, oh, well, it's dry enough. Maybe if we need lime, we could get that applied this year while there's not a crop growing out there over the winter if we get the right days or whatnot. So we've got to start with a good test. Okay. Most people like to pull a 6-inch soil test. Okay. That means with a probe, you take the top 6 inches of soil, and in an acre of 6 inches, there's around 2 million pounds of soil in an acre, in that 6 inches. So we're getting a snapshot of what is there. And you can take deeper soil test and dig down and see what's in deeper. But typically we worry about the top 6.
6 is close.
And then go from there. We're trying to keep this light, not go too deep. But, we're going to look at that 6 inches. So we want to get a good representative sample. A soil test at a lot of labs, you can get a cheap basic one. I'm kind of more leaning on to the full sample where we get micronutrients, we get the base saturations, we get the CEC, we get pH, we get, P1, P2.
Well, we want to know.
I want to know, and for, around $20-$30, I can get that whole sample and send it in, and I can get that. And I'm very, if you look in my pickup truck, you can tell that I have no order whatsoever.
Are you kidding me? I can't even get in your pickup.
Well, but I've got some weird quirks.
It's organized.
But on certain things, there's no order, but on other things like soil testing, I'm very picky. Okay.
I know you are.
Me personally, I like to pull a soil sample on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, why?
Why? Okay. If I pull that sample on Monday or Tuesday and I next day it to a lab, let's say Midwest up at Omaha or out to A&L or even Perry Ag Labs over at Bowling Green, if I send those results, that soil in the little baggies next day
On Tuesday?
on Monday or Tuesday, they will get me the results on Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
You know, and we talked about patience a long time ago.
You have none?
I have none. So this is very good that I can get an email, you know, and they can send me that soil test results. Well, then I've got a week's gone by. I can stew over it over the weekend, and then I can decide what I'm going to do if the weather's cooperating. If not, I can think about, well, you know, why is that? And we start looking at, okay, if we're going to pull these soil tests, I like to pull soil tests by management zones. Okay. And being the guy that sits in the combine and goes over that field, I know those spots that are good and those spots that aren't so good. Okay. When we do that, we start looking at these things like, okay, soil test, what's that involve? Well, that's the nutrients. That's the chemical properties of the soil. Okay. Think of 3 circles. And they all kind of intertwine. You've probably seen those diagrams on stuff you might have slept through.
I'm looking at you. Look at one right now.
Yeah. Well, this simple little diagram, you got 3 circles that all interhook together. You've got chemical, physical, and biological properties of the soil. Well, the soil test deals with the chemical. You know, your physical things are like aeration, drainage, water infiltration, water holding capacity. You know, then we look at like the biological. That's like all the little microorganisms in the soil that the soil test ain't going to pick that up. So we look at those. And one thing I mentioned several testing labs. When we pick a soil lab, we need to stick with it. Okay.
Why is that?
Well, everybody may be running, let's say, a P1 Bray, but they may do it just slightly different from each other. You know, this past spring, I pulled a bunch of soil tests from a 1-foot square on my farm. Okay. I took all those samples, pulled it in one spot, and put them in a container, and then I mixed that container up repeatedly. I think I rolled it all the way from the breezeway up at the office, all the way down to warehouse 2, and all the way back. And
good mix.
It was a good mix, and people are wondering what. Actually, they don't wonder. They just say Brad's up to something, and we moved on. But I took those, and then I sent them to various labs to see the differences. And I even sent the same sample out of that bucket in 2 different bags to the same lab to see if they were consistent. And they were pretty consistent. So I was impressed with that, you know. And it was neat to see differences in those soil tests, you know, slight differences.
Did you like the results of your test?
I did. I got this little result deal here saying, Randy, I want to pass this piece of paper to you. It says here, I'm shooting for 250 bushel corn and 100 bushel soybeans, which is a lofty goal, but, you know, we're dreaming here. So what do those recommendations say?
Okay, let my eyes adjust.
He is getting old. We call him Grandpa. And if you've ever traveled down 169 highway and had to slam on your brakes, you're probably behind a white pickup. He's probably driving.
But at least I'm being cautious. That's something you know nothing about. Anyway, okay, what was your question?
Do you see those recommendations? See, we get our soil test back. We got some recommendations.
I do. Are you talking about the N?
Yeah. See, there's just... With that, having the soil right, there was no recommendations other than some manganese.
That's it.
That was it.
There's nothing on
and
your
on the
soil
corn,
test.
there was that's the results. You know, so I've got that piece. You're
covered.
It's juiced to go. Okay. So that's by testing it, you know, and pulling those samples properly, being meticulous on how we handle those samples, you know, not contaminating them. So I want to keep that, you know, keep it ready and keep it...
I want to keep you ready because we got to go to commercial here for a minute.
We do? Well, yes, I guess we need to pay some bills.
We got to do that. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this soil testing. And as we get further in the show, we're going to talk about soil fertility. So we'll be back in just a minute with Bull Sessions on 680 KFEQ.